He gives you the cash, he so does give you the cash. He will get money from his videos, he will do what he can. My name is StarkyBeauty32, and in this video I'm going to exchange some logical, scientific, psychological and mind-blowing facts that will probably blow all of your minds out of the way and probably get you to reconsider how to fix the problem I am going to be addressing in this video. Now, in this video, I am going to be talking about flat earthers. Finally, after so long, after planning on making a flat earth related video for a very long time, I am finally going to be talking about the Flat Earth Society in this video. But I am going to be talking about how to stop the Flat Earth Society and to kind of get flat earthers to stop what they're doing when speculating and saying that the earth is flat and all that, because I really need to address this because it will be very simple, very easy and very basic to basically stop the theory once and for all. This will be a very scientific video and a very psychological video, and before we get into this, I want to say that I am by no means a scientist or a psychologist. However, what I'm going to be saying in this video is basically what I've heard from all around on the internet and all that, and heard people say in regards to the flat earthers. Now, before we get onto the main point of how to fix this whole thing and fix the Flat Earth Society and stop it, let me just explain first of all what the Flat Earth Society is. Now, in case none of you know, there are actually people out there who actually do believe that the Earth is flat. They don't believe that it's a round ball like we do a globe. They believe that the Earth is basically a flat plane that's a circle with all the continents sprawled out around it, and around the whole thing there's an ice wall which happens to be Antarctica. Now, this idea and theory was founded in the 20th century by a man named Samuel Shenton. He was a man who tried to investigate for himself whether or not the Earth was round or flat, and then he came to the conclusion that it was flat. However, before he could make any documents or anything before he died about this whole thing, it was left for a while, and nobody ever really considered the idea of flat Earth until the 21st century, which is now. And there have been a lot of people who have been going online and saying things like NASA's lying, because they do believe, flat earthers, that NASA is lying and that they're trying to hide the true shape of the Earth, which is just nonsense, by the way. But a lot of flat earthers also say things that kind of go against science and don't really make sense at all. So, as I said, flat earthers believe that the Earth is a flat circle and not a globe, like we all believe, most of us believe. And they believe that around the whole thing that there's an ice wall, which is Antarctica, and that all the continents are sprawled out through the middle of the circle, and in the middle, the very middle, that's the North Pole. Now, flat earthers are pretty unintelligent. Well, they're not unintelligent, but they're wrongly intelligent. I heard that from somewhere, and I did hear once that flat earthers really don't understand how science works, and that they really don't have that great of a cognitive thinking ability, which I kind of believe, because flat earth is just a crazy, insane theory that just pops up on the internet and comes and goes. You get what I'm getting at. And flat earthers basically just come up with their own explanations for things, basically, and don't put any kind of acknowledgement into how things actually work and all of that. Basically, they just come up with random explanations for things that have been scientifically proven to prove that the Earth is round and all that, but they just ignore it all. And basically how they ignore it all is basically when a scientist disproves that the Earth is flat and is in fact a globe, they basically laugh it off or come up with their own explanations or tell the scientists, no, that's not right, and they just basically deny that and say that they haven't proven anything. But notice that when, for example, a ship goes over the horizon, it dips below the horizon, below the Earth's curvature. Basically, that is definite proof that the Earth is indeed round and not flat. Because imagine if you're up here, the ship is here, and it goes like that, and you see here that will prove that the Earth is round and not flat. If it was flat, then the ship would just shrink into the distance, and they say that this is because of perspective, but no, that's not how perspective works at all. And also, another thing that flat earthers try to go against and deny is gravity. Flat earthers also believe that gravity doesn't exist and believe that things fall based on buoyancy and density. Now, buoyancy and density are not forces. Buoyancy is when water particles push kind of an object up to the surface, or whether the object can float well in the water, like plastic for instance, but if it's a rock then not buoyant and falls down. Basically what it's made up of, which kind of demonstrates how it's buoyant on water. And density is something which shows how much mass an object has. Now, when you drop an elephant and a mouse off the top of a building, the elephant won't hit the ground first. They will both hit the ground at the same time. And this is because of gravity. And density is not a force, and that kind of does disprove that. And gravitational waves were discovered in 2015. So that kind of disproves the flat earthers there. Also, lunar eclipses. Basically, flat earthers don't, most of them don't even have an explanation for how lunar eclipses work. So, if you don't know how a lunar eclipse works, basically, it's caused when the moon goes behind the Earth's shadow, behind the part of the Earth that's at night, that's facing away from the sun. And basically, the reason why it appears to be orange is because the sun's rays kind of go behind the Earth and hit the moon to kind of make it lighten up and all of that. Most flat earthers don't have an explanation for how lunar eclipses work, but the only way they would work is if the Earth was round. And basically, they say that there's an object which causes lunar eclipses that blocks out the sun in the sky and kind of causes that red shadow in front of the moon. But they can't even try to prove that this object exists, and can't even try to explain how lunar eclipses work correctly. And also, something else, many years ago in the ancient times, there was this Greek mathematician or philosopher by the name of Eratosthenes. Basically, he was a man who proved that the Earth was round by using wells or using sticks and placing them in different positions to where the sun was going. And notice that with the wells, the shadows are casted differently throughout kind of how the sun's rays go through them. Now, if the Earth were flat, this wouldn't be the same result as we see in real life. It would be completely different, and then there would be a completely different shadow in one of the wells if it was a flat Earth, unlike what we see in real life. And the same goes for the sticks on the ground. That kind of does make sense. And also, another thing, they can't explain how the night sky works. Basically, flat earthers also can't explain how the constellations, the certain stars in the sky in different hemispheres work. They say that it's because some of them do say that when you move, the stars change basically around you in a bubble, and that's how we see different constellations in the southern hemisphere compared to the northern hemisphere. And yes, I said some southern hemisphere first because I am from Australia, so that is why. But basically, what they also cannot explain is that when you look down from South America, South Africa, and Australia down south, if the Earth was flat, you wouldn't be seeing the same stars at night, but you actually do. And you would see the exact same constellations in the night sky that you would see basically anywhere in the southern hemisphere. That kind of does disprove that Earth is not flat itself. I mean, that disproves that Earth is flat itself. Right, now I've explained the scientific part, now we're going to get onto the psychological part. So, many flat earthers deny the fact that that Earth is a globe and deny the evidence that's been put out to basically prove that. However, the reason as to why they believe the Earth is flat is because of videos that have been posted on the internet. Basically, it's affected their mental cognitive ability to think and be smart enough to process evidence enough. And they think that is what kind of got them to believe the Earth is flat. Yeah, that's true, but it also makes them believe that there's evidence that the Earth is flat and no evidence that the Earth is round. And basically, this is a result of a phenomenon known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. Basically, the definition of the Dunning-Kruger effect is when one comprehends their cognitive ability to be greater than it is. Basically, someone who thinks that they're really smart but in actuality really stupid, and that's what flat earthers are. And seeing as they're entitled to this delusional belief in their heads, they can't let it go and deny everything that's scientific around them, basically because they really want to believe that kind of thing. And that's basically how the flat earthers are kind of entitled to their belief that the Earth is flat, and how it basically all works within their heads and how they manifested the idea in the first place that Earth is flat. I have just given everyone a bunch of scientific and psychological facts, and also everyone everyone. If you're wondering if I am a flat earther, no, I'm not. And what I said just this proves that. And I never will be a flat earther. And seeing as flat earthers are just insane and they don't really believe that we live on a globe, and they go around thinking that nobody has evidence that we live on a globe, and that they have the Dunning-Kruger effect also, that goes to show how crazy they really are, because nothing can potentially prove to them that Earth is a globe, unless, and I'm gonna tell you this now, I have thought up of an idea that could potentially get flat earthers to believe that we live on a globe and that the earth is not flat. So basically I have a plan in mind to prove to every single flat earther in the world that the earth is round. We need to get NASA to get every flat earther in the world to get onto a rocket ship, and let's blast every single flat earther in the world out into space. I think if we do that, we can definitely get them to go and see for themselves that the earth is round from out in the cosmos and that space is real. And they also deny the existence of space, by the way. However, they might say that they're in a room with kind of a pressurized or kind of manipulated system which might get them to explain how they float. And also, they might say that what they're seeing outside isn't real and green screen, but get them to go on a spacewalk outside of the spaceship. That will get them to know that space is real, and that what they're seeing from the space station, the ISS, or wherever they're going, that Earth is indeed round. I believe that we can prove to every flat earther in the world that Earth is round. I have a plan to blast off every single flat earther into space and get them to see that for themselves. Now, I do know that also there was that incident one time where a flat earther built a homemade rocket and tried to go into space but failed and also died. But we can't let flat earthers die on the way up there. We need to have them to live, at least until they get to see. Well, I mean, I don't want them to die, but I want them to realise that it's round and not flat. And hopefully we can get NASA to do that. Hopefully we can get every single flat earther in the world to realise that the Earth is round. And hopefully we can get this all... Sorry about that, I've got a bit of a hiccup. But anyways, as I was saying, we can do this. The only way to prove that Earth is round to the flat earthers is if we send them into space. Even send them to the moon, why the hell not? And prove to them that people have been to the moon and that the moon landing wasn't faked. Anyway, that is basically all I wanted to say today. Basically, one hell of a video that I've got out to you all about the Earth being round and not flat, and explaining flat Earth and saying that we should blast all the flat earthers out into space. This was one hell of a video, and I'm sure it's gonna get a lot of views, maybe. Oh, I don't know though, but we will see, And hopefully this video will also get every flat earther to kind of convince you that the Earth is round, and basically get them to determine that space is real and see it for themselves. We can do it. I believe in everyone. I believe in NASA to get every single flat earther to realise that Earth is round and not flat. And I am done now. That's just my little plan about how we're going to get around to doing this, and about how we're going to destroy the flat Earth theory once and for all. And until next time, my name is StarkyBooty32, and thank you for listening, humanity.
Talkie BD32, Talkie BD32. He's the one who's right here. Talkie BD32. He wears a shirt over